declare the meeting open at 5:13 p.m. Councillors, just a reminder that this meeting is being webcast, and for those in attendance that we refrain from making any defamatory statements. Can we now stand for the acknowledgement of pledge? Yass Valley Council recognises the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of the land, water and sky. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and future emerging leaders. We extend our respect to other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who live in the Yass Valley local government area. Councillors, as we commence our meeting, please join me in the prayer for guidance and help, or take this moment to personally reflect. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon this council. Director and prosper our deliberations to the true welfare of Australia and the people of Yass Valley. Amen. Amen. Councillors, we need to accept into council late report on the National Assembly motions. If I could have a mover to do so. Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? We now have our late report adopted in. We have a leave of absence to bring in. Could I have a leave of absence granted for Councillor Kristen Butter? So moved, Councillor Flannery and Councillor Carter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Councillors, item 3, the declaration of pecuniary interests and special disclosures. Councillor Carter.
In relation to enrolment at 5.2, I declare a non-pecuniary, non-significant interest in relation to that and the brother-in-law in the scope of COVID vaccine impact.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any further declarations? Okay. Councillors, moving on to our confirmation of the minutes, and I note, Councillor Cameron, your important pick-up on our casting vote used for 6.1, that be included.
Thank you.
Okay, any further? Yes, Councillor Flannery.
Just on the last page, meeting closed at 9:99 p.m.
This sounds very...
I've not known that we can turn time into a metric.
It sounds like that's been led by,
I mean, it was a long meeting, but it's probably 9.
I think we're going to have to either take a stab in the dark or leave that.
No, we finished around 8:35.
Yeah.
We went into an extension.
You have the record.
Yeah, I've got the recording. Okay, wonderful. So, well, how about we adopt the minutes as per the addition of the accurate meeting end time? All right. All those in favour of adopting those minutes? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to the minutes of the confidential council meeting held on the 27th as well. So moved, Councillor McGrath, Councillor Rothwell. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our agenda items. Starting with the mayoral minute for the proposed safety improvements intersections Stevens and Fitzroy Streets Binalong. If I could read out the recommendation that council write to and seeks a meeting with the Minister for Roads and Minister for Regional Transport, the Honourable Jones, and alternative traffic safety measures as proposed by the Binalong community in response to the TF New South Wales proposal to close Richmond Street. I'll move that motion and I'm happy to accept a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. Councillors, if I can just speak to the item briefly. It was a well-attended meeting at Binalong and probably overdue that councillors went out and actually engaged with the Binalong community ourselves. We'd had assurances from TF New South Wales that they were in the process of community consultation throughout this. However, the stark contrast of support or lack thereof support for their proposal was very evident, not only through the interactions that we've had in the lead up to that meeting and also at that meeting. There was no town members actually in favour of that proposal. I also noted that once we were on the ground, I was able to have a discussion with the Director of Infrastructure about what were the implications for council. I think the proposal does, put forward by TF New South Wales, does show us that there are hidden costs for council in terms of potential that we would need to upgrade Beacon Street at a cost of $300,000, and that's an estimate. And noting that further interaction from residents states that that is sometimes subject to flooding, so I think we could probably scale it up a little bit. And obviously that's an asset that we would need to create and continue on. I'm concerned that the proposed cul-de-sac wouldn't be to Australian standard, given that they would be retro-engineering the end of Richmond Street, and there is not enough latitude there to create a two standard cul-de-sac for our garbage trucks to turn around in. Specifically, the concerns that the residents had was that the solution is over-engineered, that they would prefer to have a 24-hour speed camera, lighting and signage, and the pickup was also that they were seeking an 80-kilometre zone inclusion to bring the traffic speed down on the approach to the village itself. And that they are significantly and vehemently against the closure of Richmond Street or Fitzroy Street as part of the solution. So, councillors, do I have any speakers against? Do I have any speakers for? Councillor Flannery.
I'm neither for nor against, so there was an option C, but
Okay.
in our first council meeting, I have to stand.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
In our first council meeting, I raised the question from one of the residents, Mrs. Diebold, about parking, and it wasn't in the same vicinity, or similar vicinity, but I just feel that if whatever the council decides on this, that we should also consider parking and the parking of trucks, specifically idling trucks, outside residential areas. I don't believe Mrs. Diebold has had a sufficient response. And so I would like that to be considered by council along with a whole lot of others. So we don't deal with it in a piecemeal situation. So I'm not quite sure how we deal with it, but I do feel that we should be looking at traffic in Binalong. And I also commend the community on saying it is our community, we know it. You know, we've seen many issues where traffic engineers have not got it right.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do you have any further comments?
No, I mean, let's make
Councillor
a couple of comments, and again, it's neither for nor against, and ultimately, I think we should be supporting the interests of the Binalong community in relation to this. I'm just worried about a couple of the proposed words and the way that you present this in your letter. My understanding is that Transport for New South Wales chose not to attend the meeting because they had no further information, but they were keen to understand what came out of that meeting, and they wanted that report. This comes across as saying, unfortunately, this invitation was declined. They had reasons for that, for declining. It comes across, I suspect, a little bit more judgmental than it might need to be. I'm wondering if you would want to nuance that slightly, in the sense that, you know, they were interested. It's not a question of not being interested, it's a question of they didn't have information to present to that meeting per se. So I'm just wondering about the impacts of that kind of wording potentially when we're trying to negotiate ultimately for benefit here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Carter. For clarity, the invitation was not to present more information to the community. The invitation was to come as a listening exercise, for which they declined, if that helps clarify why it may sound a little bit more judgmental. I'm happy to extrapolate further in the letter the response from TF New South Wales, if that assists. Yeah, okay. Councillors, any other further comments? Let's put it to vote. All those in favour of the recommendation? That's unanimously passed. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to mayoral minute 5.2. Councillors, I bring this to you for our urgent review, given the unknown quantum of the health of Mr and Mrs Lushmore going forward, noting that Mr Lynn considered that their health is deteriorating, and I would like to secure this meeting as soon as possible, considering that as well that there's a potential election that might put the situation into caretaker mode. So I'd like to lodge a letter as soon as practical to assist them, and noting that they are in a public awareness campaign as well, and I felt that this was something we needed to decide as a council. So the recommendation, I'll read it out and seek a seconder, that council writes to our local, federal and state members seeking a meeting with both to assist facilitate representation for Mr and Mrs Armour Lushmore, and I'd like to include with your Grace councillors and other residents who have declared they are COVID vaccine injured. And while this is mayoral minute, in the spirit of this collegiate council, I will seek a seconder. Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Councillors, we heard in our open forum from a range of our community members, including Mr Lynn Armour and Mrs Arida Armour Lushmore. I first met Arida when she was successfully running her business, the Abbey Shoe Shop, down the main street of Yass, many years ago, as she confidently strode through that shoe shop in heels that I would never have the courage to wear. And it was a shock when she sent us a video of her unmedicated COVID injury walk, and it was a shock to learn of the state of some of our citizens. I'm not a medical person. I'm not here to declare someone COVID injured or not. I think as councillors we're here to listen and to do our due diligence to ensure that they secure the representation that they need to take this state issue and federal issue onto the next platform. So I believe that we should write to our local, federal and state members. I'm here to offer the opportunity to facilitate that meeting. I know there's a lot of fear in the community around presenting this issue, but I think we really need to set that aside and look at the bare basics of this issue, that we have citizens who need representation, who haven't received it. It was a brave new world for all of us in terms of taking that vaccine that had only been around for 12 months or less. And I'm not surprised that the fallout of that has left citizens dead, citizens injured, and looking for answers and looking for healing through the truth-telling that we heard this afternoon. So I'm going to put it over to councillors now if they would like to speak for or against.
Point of order. On the 10th of October 2024, we signed a delegation to the meeting to write and to sign correspondence on behalf of the council. You have exercised this, Madam Mayor, in writing without consultation of council on the 18th of November 2024 to the Premier Chris Minns. Why does this need to be a mayoral minute?
So, Councillor Carter, if you're referring to the letter that I wrote and brought as a mayoral minute to council in regards to Parkwood, I brought that through as a mayoral minute.
It had already been sent to the minister. The meeting was on the 27th of, the 29th of November. 28th of November, sorry. The letter is dated the 18th of November. So clearly the letter had been sent prior to the meeting of council.
It's not my understanding that it had been sent. I think that's when I had written it. and the date, I think, had been adjusted once it was sent. So, Councillor Carter, I thank you for your due diligence in checking, but I did not write to the Minister without the support of Council. Okay, sorry, that's a point of order, so that's my response, and so I'd like to put that to a vote in terms of whether the point of order should stand. Councillors, are you happy to proceed with the motion as it stands? All those in favour? Point of order lost. Okay, we'll now relook at the issue. Councillors, do we have any speakers for or against? Councillor Cameron.
I have a point of order as well. I don't see how this can be a mayoral minute as such. As I raised recently, if you read our rules and sort of regulations, it says a mayoral minute must not be used to put without notice matters that are routine and not urgent. And I don't think this is an urgent matter. You made the point about the federal election, and as a federal election, it gives the people who are COVID injured, COVID vaccine injured, sorry, a chance to talk to all the candidates, and they obviously are doing that. I just don't think this is a urgent matter. An urgent matter is something that requires a decision by the council before the next scheduled meeting, which is in April, late April. So I think, as a point of order, this shouldn't be a mayoral minute.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. In response, I will state that the difference between an elected member of parliament and candidates is a vast difference in terms of their ability to action an item. And the first reason that I stated for the urgency is the unknown quantum of the status of the health of COVID vaccine injured that we have before us today, including Mr. and Mrs. Lynn and Arita Alma Lushmore. I'd like to sleep at night knowing that we acted as quickly as possible in order to action this item. I'm not a GP or an emeritus professor in medicine. I'm not here to say that someone will survive a day or for the rest of their lives because of their COVID vaccine injured. I'm here as a mayor to assist council process this request for representation to state and federal government. So that's my response to your point of order. We'll vote now. Should the point of order be set aside? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? Councillor Carter, Councillor Cameron.
I'd like to move a motion to send.
Okay. Councillor Carter, you have the floor. Oh, sorry, first of all, I need to vote against the, sorry, no, we've done that, sorry, okay. Vote of dissent. I'm just running it down, okay.
All recognised under the code of practice.
Okay. So, sorry, Councillor Carter, just received advice that a vote of dissent is not recognised under our code.
On the vote that you've just taken.
Motion to send against the
So if
decision.
you wish to raise a new motion in relation to the matter, that may be a different story.
Okay, so we've just voted against the point of order and we're proceeding with the item. So if you want to vote as a vote of dissent against the item itself.
Are you seeking to challenge the ruling on the point of order?
Correct, which is a motion to send.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Again, the question ultimately is the issue of urgency. And an urgency matter is that it has to be dealt with, or cannot be dealt with before the next ordinary council meeting, which isn't exactly less than 1 month's time. But the point that you raised in your letter originally to Ms. Lushmore, was that the right course of action here is to the federal members, which you wrote in 2023. The point around urgency is that this is equally a complex matter. The conversations we've had from persons here are about a royal commission. That is through a letters patent, through federal ministers, not from any representations of council. And that's quite different from what you're seeking here in your minute, which is to, and I'm not entirely sure what to assist, facilitate means personally, but maybe it might be to assist or and facilitate, might be the right phraseology. But that's quite different from what actually the representations before us were, and in fact in all the correspondence I've received, as well as the request to sign petitions and other likes from people that are presented here. The question is an urgency question, Madam Mayor, and I think this raises real questions around how these processes might materialise, how they might be used in other spaces as well. And in that sense, there is a question here with respect to the ruling that this is urgent.
So in response to note the urgency, let me take a sword through the Geordian knot for you. It is not our role to hold a royal commission or facilitate further up the chain. It is our role as local government council to facilitate the contact that when I wrote in my response in 23, which you speak of, is in relation to the fact that that has not occurred, that they have not been able to secure that essential face-to-face meeting with their local, federal and state representatives.
So you think you need to make a ruling on the point of order.
Okay, so I rule that we should proceed. So all those in favour against the point of order of dissent, all those in favour?
I'm just not
So, so we have to rule whether the point of order.
Can I also draw the attention of the chair that if there is disagreement with the ruling that is being given, then a motion of dissent may be moved, and there is a separate set of procedures to be followed from that.
Oh, okay, so I'll rule that the motion of dissent doesn't apply, and, or is that the right word?
No.
Sorry, what's the right word?
The point of order bringing it forward that it was not consistent with the code of meeting practice, and I understand your ruling is that it is admissible and should proceed, and if that is your ruling, then our councillors may choose to dissent and move a motion
Okay.
forward.
So, sorry, just a clarification of the point, because I'm slightly very confused. If we were voting for the motion of dissent, the content of what Councillor Carter has wrote is we're supporting that, and if we're voting against it, we're not supporting it. Just so I know what I'm voting.
So I'm ruling that out, that the motion, the mayoral minute, is admissible, that we can do that business here
But
today.
is that what we're voting on, or are we voting on the dissent, or are we not?
So I was a step too, I jumped a step, so I'm gonna rule that this minute is admissible. And then if Councillor Carter wishes to put a motion for a vote of consent, dissent, then that needs to go to a vote.
Okay,
So I'm gonna, thank you, Councillor Flannery. So I'm noting that the mayoral minute is admissible. And I'd like to proceed with the business. And Councillor Carter has an opportunity now to put a motion of dissent should he so choose.
Under 15.8 of the Code of Meeting Conduct Practice, I seek to make a motion of dissent, which is that this no longer qualifies or does not qualify as an urgent matter which cannot be dealt with in the next council meeting. You've said it yourself, you're not a GP. I'm sad to hear that there might be further deterioration of illness, but that's not for our judgment. Our matter is, can this be dealt with within the ordinary business of council, and our suggestion is that it certainly could be.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Cameron? We'll now put this to the vote, this motion of dissent. All those in favour? So Councillors Carter, Cameron and Flannery. All those against? Councillors McGrath, Cherry, Jones, Burgess, Rothwell. the motion of dissent is lost. We'll now move on with the business of council. So councillors, do we have any further debate before we put the mayoral minute for a vote? Councillor
But I'd like to speak in support of this motion. I personally met with both Oregon and Lynn a few weeks back with Councillor Rothwell when they sought some time with us to discuss the issues. And I'd just like to make a couple of points and just give a bit of context. I was originally contacted by Ms. Colling and others about this issue when I was first elected. She made it a point to raise this to my attention in the Port Hedland action that has been carried out by their local council. And I admit fully that at the time I felt that this was well outside the remit of a local council. I didn't see it as a necessary action to be taken by this level of government. But I've got to be honest, I've changed my mind fundamentally because I've done some reading, I've done some soul searching, and I quote section 232 of the Local Government Act, which states the role of the councillor is to represent the collective interests of residents, ratepayers in the local community. Now, Madam Mayor, I see that as a moral obligation to the community to represent their needs if they wish for us to advocate on their behalf to high levels of government. As I said, I've sat down with both Ora and Lynn and I've listened to what they had to say. Now, I'm absolutely appalled at the way they get treated on social media. It is absolutely disgusting that the comments that come their way, they get called all sorts of names, which are extremely disappointing. And to see that is really disheartening because this chamber works very hard to rejoin that community vibe and that community trust in the decisions that we make, but also in the wider community to, I guess, step forward in the right direction in a positive light. And I see this as a conscious vote. And Madam Mayor, I'd like to just make a comment to, I guess, your methodology here. When I first saw this as a mayoral minute, I too asked the question, is this appropriate? But after discussions that I've had with yourself, with other councillors in this room, I'm very comfortable to support you in this because I feel that this could have been very well within your discretion to do this without the endorsement of this chamber. I support the fact that this chamber has a mayor that has that under their discretion. And I respect the chair, and therefore for you to bring this to this forum is a compliment to you. And I really appreciate you doing it to bring us into that discussion because it demonstrates an overwhelming support for two residents who have gone through years of plight and the way that they've been treated. And I would like to throw my weight of support and advocacy as an elected member to ensure that they at least go one step further in their advocacy. Because Oregon and Lynn do not see themselves as victims. They sit there and they fight every single day. And I would like to do anything I can to support them. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillors, do we have any further speakers for or against? Councillor Cameron.
It's very difficult for me to come in after that discussion or the debate that Councillor Cherry has put forward. I agree with him, but I think initially he said he thought this was outside the scope of local government, our council to be dealing with. Unfortunately, Councillor Cherry, I still maintain that position. I think council has enough on its plate at the moment, so I find it disappointing that we are discussing this particular issue at length, and we've given a lot of time to it. And I think one of the things that has happened is that these people who feel seriously disadvantaged have been given an opportunity to have their say. But we face much wider challenges, and I think this is a matter outside the scope of our council to deal with. Yes, representation for the collective, Councillor Cherry, is an important point, but we're talking about the collective and not every individual that we're talking about. I think from my point of view, this sets a precedence of expectation from the community. Okay, if I can't get a hearing at a higher level for whatever reason, and maybe quite unjustified, I have an expectation on this precedence that we can go to the council and be represented by them in whatever matter we feel is appropriate. And it may be a matter that's not justified, like this particular one. It may be other ones. So I think a couple of things from my point of view. I think it's outside the scope of council. It does remind me that Councillor Jones brought forward a book banning exercise at the Yass Library to this council a couple of years ago, and it was stated by the CEO quite explicitly that that was outside the terms of reference of council, that it couldn't be dealt with at the council level because the answer, the solution was elsewhere. And I think this is the same case here. I think you're right, the Mayor does have the prerogative to individually go and support people who are local residents, just like you and I can do. We have done that, and we've done that on many situations. So I just think that I have to make a statement that says, I think it's not an urgent matter, and I voted that way. It's not an urgent matter. It could have been dealt with reasonably at any meeting, and I just think we need to be aware of the precedents that we're setting.
Councillor Cameron, before you sit down, can I ask you to
Thank you.
clarify your comment in regards to that it would be okay to represent the collective? Are you stating that because this is an individual that we're representing in this matter, it's not appropriate? Could you just clarify for me?
No, I think Councillor Terry was talking about the collective, and I think in this case it was an individual. It is a group of individuals, and not the collective, not the whole of Yass Valley residents.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron.
Thank you.
Do you have any further speakers? Councillor Rothwell.
Well, I think it is urgent for those people, and I think it's up to the Mayor to make that call. It's pretty wrong of us if we can't help some people. That's our job. That's all.
Councillor Burgess.
I'd just like to say I think this is an urgent matter, and I think we've got to look after these people. It's the council's duty to do so.
Do I have any further speakers?
I'm alright to speak against this. I speak as someone who has been not directly impacted by COVID vaccination injury, but certainly with a family member who has been severely impacted as well by the particular injury. And my brother-in-law, a very strong Māori man from New Zealand, has lost significant ability out of the vaccination. So I speak with someone who has skin in this game in a similar way, but a different way to those that have spoken before us as well. The problem I have with this is that I think we're giving false promise, in fact. We have no capability nor compulsion to see that who will very shortly be the caretaker member for this region. The election boundaries have shifted, as we all know, and a new member will be elected for this particular region in a very short time. So a letter to Christy McBain ultimately is perhaps without value, in the sense that it's unlikely to be received by, from all intents and purposes, by tomorrow in her office before what it seems will be an election called tomorrow afternoon, from what people suggest. Furthermore, the way to bring about change in these particular matters is through weight of numbers. There are a lot of people here that have applauded multiple items and conversations. That's pleasant to say, and great for that people are interested and concerned. Write your letter. Every single member here that's interested or concerned about this particular matter should be writing their letter.
We have.
This is not...
Done it! We've been doing it for years!
Excuse me, order. Thank you. Councillor Carter, proceed.
As I was saying, the idea is that a weight of numbers is the key argument here. And a voice from a local government which has no round nor authority in a particular matter. This is not a matter of council business. It is a matter by which council is officially aware of, which is one of the criteria for a mayoral minute, but it's outside the scope of our normal activities, Madam Mayor. I'm worried about the false hope that we provide. Unfortunately, health issues are outside of the scope of a meeting request. The meeting request is not to resolve the health issues. The meeting request is for further advocacy. And so I'm concerned that we are giving false conversations and false hopes to those here that are concerned by this particular matter. Our job as elected representatives is to make that judgment and to be cautious about entering into spaces where we give false hope to people that have been impacted by these activities. I can't speak to why Mike Butler, as the Associate Minister for Health or similar, has decided not to meet with these particular people. Although it seems that other people, such as Mrs. Crothers, has or might have been with senators and others. I can't speak to why Christian McBain has been unable to meet with these particular people. I'm not sure why Wendy Tuckerman wishes to not meet with these particular people on this relevant issue. That's a matter for elections. If people are upset by that, they should vote that way, they should write their letter. That is democracy. This is ultimately a question of false hope. And in this particular space, and given the issues with my particular brother-in-law, that false hope is worrying, Madam Mayor. And I'm concerned about the precedents that this sets in relation to matters of importance like this. I speak as someone with absolute skin in this game, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hepner. If I can make some closing comments. I believe that wherever there is love and compassion around this table, there is always reason to hope. Faith. The faith of the Armour Lushmores to go and get the COVID vaccine in the first place, to do their civic duty, to keep others safe as they went to the market with their berries, is something that I need to acknowledge. I need to acknowledge that I had faith that I would be okay when I took that COVID vaccine. Potentially, if I had received the batch that they received, I would not be sitting here with the ability to advocate for the Armour Lushmores. And I think the same goes for all of us around this table. I think it was a leap of faith that we all took, that a vaccine that had been in existence for less than 12 months would do us no harm. That's since been proven to be not the case for some in our community, and we should not leave them behind. This is an opportunity for us, and I don't believe that the Armour Lushmores are under any illusions about what this will and won't achieve, but I think it's on us to try and secure them the meeting. I'm happy to attend. I think wherever love and compassion can triumph over fear, there is hope, and I wish the Armour Lushmores well in their journey. I'm sure this is not the end. As we saw tonight, they're prepared to do as much work as is possible to advocate and to find a way for people to come to terms and to live the best lives they can with their COVID vaccine injuries. Councillors, I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour? Councillors McGrath, Chari, Jones, Burgess, Rothwell, Flannery. All those against? Councillors Carter, Councillors Cameron. The motion is carried. Thank you, councillors, for your informed and respectful debate. Councillors, moving on to item 6.1. Oh, sorry, we'll bring in the Labour report now, beg your pardon. So we can just, we've taken a chance to get it up, sorry about that. Okay, so item 6.9, actually, since it's in the 6.9, do I need to do a motion to bring it forward? Yeah, sorry. Oh, that's okay. There's a little bit of a numbering difference, so if we can bring this item next, councillors, 6.9, if I can have a motion to bring it forward in the business order. Councillor Rothwell.
Madam Mayor, is there a particular reason for that? Is there a particular reason for that?
Just that we have it listed as the next item on our
Seek a
screens.
motion to bring it
Sorry,
forward in the
I just don't want to
business.
forget it. There's no other reason if councillors don't have a mind to put the motion and bring it forward. Alright, we'll carry on. 6.1, development application number DA 240276. Sorry, okay. Give you a chance to get to it. 29 lot subdivision, 2402 Sutton Road, Sutton.
So we're not,
So we're going back.
Going back to the original order?
We're going back to the original order. Sorry, councillors. Just don't let me forget it.
No, you're right.
Okay, thank you. All right, so councillors, we do have a recommendation before us. Councillor Charrick, do you have a
Madam
motion?
Mayor, I'd like to move a motion, Kate, if you don't mind bringing it up, please, and I'll read that for the wider awareness. I move that a conditional development consent be issued to development application number DA 240276 for the 29 lot subdivision at 2402 Sutton Road, Sutton. Paragraph 2, the development consent requires the design and construction of a permanent all-weather pedestrian and cyclist footbridge over McLaughlin's Creek, structurally rated for shared use in accordance with relevant Australian standards for pedestrian and bicycle loading. Paragraph 3, the footbridge is to be completed no later than 12 months from the date of registration of a subdivision certificate. And paragraph 4, the planning agreement pursuant to section 7.4 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979 New South Wales be amended to include the delivery of the footbridge as specified public benefit item.
Councillors, do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Carter. Councillor Charrick, you have the floor.
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I rise to move the motion before us regarding DA 240276 for the 29 lot subdivision at 2402 Sutton Road, Sutton. This development represents more than just the expansion of a residential footprint. It's an opportunity to honour the kind of growth our community has told us they want: connected, considered and human-centred. I want to pause and take a moment to acknowledge the Sutton District Community Association, and in particular its President, Mr. Mark Burgess, who is with us here tonight, plus a lot more of his members. I publicly want to acknowledge their commendable foresight and reasoned debate that they have brought to the conversation about Sutton's future. Their locally developed master plan has been and will continue to be a guiding light in shaping a community-led vision, one grounded in lived experience, shared aspiration and a strategic purpose. I personally take a keen interest in representing the views and opinions of the Sutton community in this chamber. I consider it a great responsibility to ensure that our decisions reflect the integrity of their contributions, especially where those decisions will have long-term impacts on the livability and character of the Sutton village and its surrounds. The motion before us ensures that the development proceeds with a requirement for the delivery of a permanent all-weather footbridge over McLaughlin's Creek, structurally rated for shared use and constructed to relevant Australian standards. This isn't an optional extra. It's a vital piece of infrastructure that ensures physical and social connection between the new development and the heart of Sutton village. I also believe that the timeline for delivery within 12 months of the registration of the subdivision certificate is appropriate. It ensures that the footbridge will be delivered before any new residents move into their newly built homes at 2402 Sutton Road. This sequencing is essential. It reflects an understanding that infrastructure must precede occupancy, not follow it as an afterthought. To the developers, I want to express this Chamber's gratitude. Your commitment to a form of growth that reflects and respects the community's vision is noted and appreciated. This Chamber welcomes applications that demonstrate this sentiment, because this process is not and should never be a zero-sum game of transactions, contracts and financial commitments. We're not here to simply tick boxes. As elected officials, we are compelled to bring the human interface into this process, to ask quite simply but profoundly, what is the value proposition to the community? Because if we fail to ask that question, if we overlook the long-term impact on the people who live and raise families in the Sutton District, then we have fundamentally failed those who elected us to speak in this chamber on behalf of them. I commend this motion to my fellow councillors. It's not only strategic and sound, it is principled, and it is above all in service of the people that we are here to represent. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Charrick. I now extend the opportunity for our seconder, Councillor Carter.
Just first, Madam Mayor, a point of clarification to Mr. Cherry about this motion. So the recommendation from Council was for conditions including the footbridge, but also the dedication of trails and open space. Is it your intent that that is removed, or should that still be there?
Please.
So we might need to move that as
Might need to move,
Okay,
potentially change the wording.
okay. So,
So it might be development consent requires the design, etc., and after the bicycle loading, as well as the dedication of trails and open space.
Yep.
Might need to be the addition.
so we need to add dedication of trails and open space to council after
Well, probably after loading, bicycle loading.
loading. Okay. Kick off.
Okay. Ask a further question, Madam Mayor,
Yes.
through you to the Acting Director for Planning and Environment. And I know this might be a little bit complex answer at one level. In terms of, so our presenters have talked about a sort of $200,000 cost for this type of bridge. Is that what you would understand the general cost of this would be?
Yeah, I would throw you out of there. Yes, they're in a better position to provide that costing than I am. And they've obviously done some preliminary investigation into that, so.
Councillor Carter, would you now like to speak to the issue?
Very briefly, again, I just want to recognise our speakers in relation to this, and thank you very much to the Southern and Community Planning Association for all their work in this particular area. I do think this is a positive development. I do like the fact that this is going to continue to improve the infrastructure for Murrumbidgee, we'll talk about that shortly, for Southern. But it is all, I think the note, of course, is that there is further work to do here to improve community access through Sutton to ensure that it's both a safe space but also a usable space for the residents in that particular area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Do I have any further speakers? Councillor Flannery.
It's a point of clarification in the report, under item point 6.1, consistency with settlement strategy and Sutton master plan. I note, and this is probably a broader question to the Acting Director of Planning, that should this development be approved, we're 3/4 way through the quota, through the so this would take the developments in Sutton that are approved under a previous decision to 109, and that leaves us with, what, 41 remaining. So although I don't have a specific question related to this, I was just wondering how council is contemplating, or how, in a planning context, you're weighing this one against other ones that might be coming up. I'm not quite sure if you can answer it, but that was my concern of, is it first invest stressed? And although this has been in the pipeline for a long time, I just am a little bit unsure, perhaps being new to council, how we assess those on merit or we don't.
Yeah, so as it stands, this, like, we have to look at this DA on its own, sorry, we have to look at this DA on its own, so that it's well within its right to be lodged and assessed and as it stands. I guess it's bigger picture, looking at planning proposals that come in, and looking at the number of lots left. There's only 41. We know that there's a planning proposal in the pipeline for a lot more than that in the area. So it would be then, I guess, looking at budget and allocating budget to review the settlement strategy.
And so we could only, as council, consider that a future development, say if a development came in with 60 plus or 50 plus houses, we could only consider that once the settlement strategy was reviewed, or we would do it as a different mechanism.
Yeah, it would need to be considered, the settlement strategy needs to be looked at. And then it would be up to the applicant for the planning proposal to, I guess, to put a proposal forward that demonstrates, that it meets the objectives of the settlement strategy.
And so I guess it's a broader question about, thinking ahead. And I know that this is not, I'm not talking against this proposal, I just feel that we should have a further discussion about how this sits within the broad framework of Sutton master plan. And also, sorry, I have one more secondary question, because we have a lot of questions about Murrumbidgee development. Should this developer want to subdivide down from 5,000 square metres to 2,000, 1,000, another DA process would go through, or would this be if this development was passed and I bought my lot and I'm 5,000 square metres or whatever the averaging is, and I decided I wanted to chop it in half, I can't do it. So it wouldn't be the same as Murrumbidgee, where people with larger lots are now putting in DAs to chop those in half. We'll chop and divide them.
So under the housing concept, you could have a secondary dwelling, which is restricted in the floor area, but would be subject to further reports coming in, and in particular into on-site. I think you'll find that they'll be restricted by the on-site sewage, on-site effluent disposal.
So that is in some ways different than our voting, because for the last 3 council meetings, I just have a problem with development by stealth. I'm just wondering if we have contemplated in this, or whether the legislation doesn't allow, should someone want to subdivide, not build a separate dwelling, but subdivide, do we have any mechanisms in this to say, well, what is the planning mechanism? If I bought my 5,000, if this was approved, what is that mechanism?
My understanding is that the lots are, like, yeah, they can't be further subdivided because of the minimum lot size.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Flannery. Do we have any speakers against? Councillor Cameron.
It's difficult for me to speak against this particular motion because it does clarify that the link across the creek and it specifies the bridge. So I think it's well written in that sort of sense. Can I just make a point? I'll make a.
Councillor Cameron, have you just convinced yourself to speak for?
No, I'm speaking against it, but I'm just
Well written.
Appreciate the compliment.
yeah, I'm just recognising that it's well worded. And it does clarify the link situation that I brought up earlier. Look, what I wanted to talk about briefly, and I'll be brief, is that the development control plan took 6 years to make, and we have had it in operation now for what, 12 months, 18 months, something along those sort of lines. And yet, in this regard, in regard to footpaths, it reads here, it says, our plan requires footpaths to be provided on new roads within subdivisions or land zoned R2 low density residential. And yet, this development fails to meet that requirement, and this development in terms of footpaths. So I think this, to disregard this and to be flexible on the DCP is a very bad precedent and sends the wrong message to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Do I have any speakers for the motion? Councillors, if you're satisfied, we'll put this to a vote. All those in favour of the recommendation for you? It's Councillors McGrath, Carter, Chari, Jones, Burgess, Rothwell, Flannery. Those against? Councillor Cameron. Motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to item 6.2. The modification development consent, DA 230374 for 34 lot rural subdivision, 75 Isabel Drive, Byron Bay. Councillors, there is a recommendation before you. Councillor Chari.
Madam Mayor, as per last motion, Katie, if you can bring it up please, and I'll read it out for wider awareness. I move that the application to modify development consent number DA 230374 under section 4.5 of 1 alpha of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979 in New South Wales be refused. 2. The removal of the pedestrian path condition is not in the public interest pursuant to section 4.151 echo of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979 New South Wales and would undermine strategic planning objectives that are represented in the Murray Basin Structure Plan. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Carter. Seconding. Alright, Councillor Chari, you now have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise this evening to move this motion to refuse the proposed modification to development consent number DA 230374 on 75 Isabel Drive, Murray Bateman. Allow me to state up front, I do not take this position lightly, nor do I disregard the professionalism of council planning staff or the goodwill of the developer. However, after careful review of the planning context, relevant legislation and the history of this application, I have formed the view that removing the pedestrian path condition imposed by this chamber in 2023 would not be in the best interest of the Murray Bateman community. This is not about resisting change or growth, far from it. As a resident of Murray Bateman, I have long been and will continue to be a strong advocate for growth and development that aligns with sound planning principles and adheres to the legislative framework that governs our decisions. But I'm also, and proudly so, a proponent for strategic integrity, for developments that proceed in line with an agreed framework, not in piecemeal departures from it. In this case, that agreed framework is the Murray Bateman Structure Plan, which sits within the Yass Valley Settlement Strategy. These documents are not there for aspirational gloss. They serve a high purpose and represent a considered direction for how Murray Bateman should grow in a connected, sustainable and prosperous way. They reflect the collective thinking of planning professionals, councillors past and present, and most importantly, the Murray Bateman community itself. For this chamber to approve a modification that seeks to walk back a community-endorsed and strategically aligned condition, particularly one relating to pedestrian connectivity and public amenity, risks undermining the very principles that are supposed to guide us. These aren't symbolic principles. They are practical, enforceable objectives designed to future-proof our community as it grows. This is especially important given the scale of what lies ahead for this council. We are preparing to undertake one of the most significant land use debates in modern history of the Yass Valley. That is the development of 286 hectares of council-owned land north of the Murray Bateman village. If ever there was a moment to hold the line on our planning commitments, this is it. We must not send mixed signals to the community or to future applicants. When this council imposes a condition based on strategic alignment, community feedback and professional planning advice, as it did in 2023, that condition must mean something. Otherwise, what message do we send? Are we not by that action eroding the community's trust in our decision making? This is not an anti-developer motion. In fact, I greatly appreciate the applicants' collaborative engagement with council officers and their willingness to offer land dedication. But land dedication alone is not enough. A path not built is a connection not made. And connectivity, both physical and social, is at the heart of Murray Bateman's long-term planning vision. The request before us may seem minor in isolation, but its implications are not. If we weaken our adherence to strategic objectives now, we risk undermining our own credibility as a consent authority, just as our community looks to us for leadership on how their communities will evolve. For these reasons, and in line with our responsibility pursuant to Section 4.15 of the Environmental Planning Assessment Act 1979 New South Wales, I move and commend this motion to refuse the modification application put before us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cherry. The second of Councillor Carter would like to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a question, first of all, though, to the Director of Instruction Assets. There's been a couple of questions around safety raised here about stopping at the stage at Isabel Drive. Is there anything we could do to support that potential safety issue? Could we put signs up? Could we put a warning notice up? Is there anything we could do to perhaps minimise that potential?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, yeah, there could possibly be signs by supervision aspects you could put in there to try to improve the safety and make sure that pedestrians are aware of what they're walking into. If it does just sort of do it in there.
Thank you. I'll speak to the motion now, Madam Mayor, if I may. All I just want to say very quickly is that actually there is quite a significant plan with respect to the Murray Bateman Structure Plan from the settlement strategy for quite a significant series of pathways right around and including right down Isabel Drive. So the argument, I suspect, is that this might be a timing issue, Madam Mayor, that while there might be a short-term issue by which this pathway terminates at a street with little options where to go at this particular moment, the plan is by 2031 to have a full pathway system right through Murray Bateman. And so I think in that sense there will be a series of strong connections to this moving forward, Madam Mayor, and in that sense I fully endorse the motion as moved by Councillor Cherry.
Councillor Carter, before you take your seat, just listening to your debate, would you like to amend the motion so that it includes a point 3, council to install supervision signage once the path is constructed? Sorry, the developer, developer.
Madam Mayor, may I clarify that?
Yes.
The word investigate,
Certainly.
because it assumes that it's needed by saying that the developer installs, and also there's landscape treatments that could be done, there's seating that could be done, there's a whole range of things rather than just signage that can slow people down. I mean, we've walked across bushland for thousands of years and it just seems quite crazy to me that we now have to have all these extra restrictions just to walk along, but I know that there's cars, you may just investigate.
The advent of earplugs with music going through them and phones that require our 24/10 attention apparently require extra supervision. Perhaps something along the lines of council investigate options.
Or is it council or the developer investigate?
Would you want council to investigate and then inform the developer what to do? It's all getting too hard now, sorry.
I think the developer should come forth with some options. I mean, it's their part to construct. I mean,
Okay.
ours to take.
Yeah, so it becomes our road reserve, so it's something
Should
along the
the
lines of
should the
council
motion be approved, supported, then it's incumbent on the developer to build that through the sector.
I'm happy now that it's council investigate options for improved safety.
Okay. Council investigates options for the developer to include safety signage / landscaping,
Just safety options.
safety options, okay. To be installed by the developer. So council investigate options to include council to investigate safety options for the developer to install.
I just feel that that's a bit clumsy. I feel that the developer
You're
should
right.
investigate the safety options because they're the one developing the path. So if it's us coming in and saying, put in a mound or something that's going to cost them a lot, I think we should.
Investigate safety options
Fountains.
Probably at the developer.
at the interface with Isabel Drive, is that correct? At the interface of Isabel Drive to the satisfaction of council. Great, point through councillor.
Nice, thank you. You did well. Council to be installed by the developer. To be funded and installed by the developer. Is that crystal clear? To be funded and installed by the developer.
Is there a time period?
Yeah, we need details, we'd have to include, any conditions, the details becoming prior to issue of subdivision works certificate. And the works would need to be installed, inspected, and then
Do I need anything further before it's ready? So we'll take out the full stop, put a comma prior to the release of the subdivision certificate. Okay, we do need to add the word request developer. Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the Acting Director of Planning and Environment is going to just give some clarification around this third part in this alternative motion, just to assist with ensuring that it's completed and there's legal standards for it.
yeah, so we'll need details prior to the issue of the subdivision work certificate. So the subdivision work certificate will be approved once we're happy with the safety, the details to be installed. and then prior to issue of subdivision certificate, the works must be, the safety measures that we're talking about must be installed. Sorry, 3, Madam Mayor, would you like me to, I can just take standard wording from a condition, or would you, or the recommendation allow staff to appropriately word a condition?
I believe this allows you to word the condition. Yep.
Are we voting on something?
We'll
You
get
can if you
there,
wish.
we'll get there.
You can vote.
Sure. Says to us, or not?
Okay, does that
Yeah, Journey.
achieve it?
Mover and seconder.
Okay.
Okay, councillors, any further debate?
Just these two,
Councillors, can I make a small comment before I offer the final speaking opportunity to the mover? All over Yass, I see pathways that apparently finish to a road and seem to go nowhere. And it's been a challenge to fund through council retrospectively those works through the PAD. But it is a delight when I see, after almost 10 years of walking down a particular road, hoping to get my kids off the road very soon, that at the Paulding and Church Street intersection, a formed lip was created to link anyone with mobility issues or bikes onto a pathway that currently exists on Church Street. It was a pleasure to see the path installed in front of the soon to be occupied crisis housing on Pritchard Street. But when you look at it, it looks like a path that goes nowhere. But eventually, with the connectivity through the PAD and indeed with the structure plan and mine abatement, these paths that appear to go nowhere are actually opportunities for people to get off the road and to create a more safer journey for themselves. It doesn't make a lot of sense at the time. That's what retro-engineering pathways looks like. It looks messy. I think we should proceed because the opportunities to keep going eventually, I hope we will have a more connected community in mine abatement. We already see them out jogging. I know not how they get up so early, but they do it. And kids on bikes, and I look forward to seeing these families in these new homes that will be built, accessing other parts of mine abatement and getting to know their neighbours in a way that's not always possible unless you've got that connectivity. So I commend the motion. Councillor Chari, would you?
No for comment, thank you.
Okay, councillors, let's vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous, thank you.
That's the call.
Can I just thank staff for that last minute adjustment on the notes? Very much appreciated. Councillors, moving on to item 6.3, the Yass Water Treatment Plant Upgrade Implementation. We have a recommendation before us that it be noted. Do I have a mover? Councillor Rothwell, Councillor Flannery. Councillor Rothwell, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Flannery. I'll just take this opportunity to ask the Director of Infrastructure if he would like to make any comments. Oh, all good. Councillors, if there's no further debate, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion carried. Councillors, moving on to item 6.4, the Workplace Culture Review. We have a recommendation that Council notes the proposed timeframes with respect to the delivery of the Workplace Culture Review. Do I have a mover? So moved, Councillor Chari and Councillor Rothwell. Do we have any speakers?
Just very quickly, Madam Mayor, for obviously all the motions, obviously very well invested in this one. I'd just like to acknowledge the work that our acting CEO has done helping us to get to this point. At the time of us implementing this motion and unanimously supported by a Chamber of Council, we were made very aware of the fact that the acquisition process may take a little bit longer than expected, and exactly as we expected, it's panned out that way. So I appreciate the work that Ms. Costa has done, and I would just like to say and reiterate to everyone who's going to listen to this and I guess highlight the purpose of this. This is about understanding the workplace culture within Yass Valley Council that's stemming out of some pretty contentious allegations, which obviously raise a lot of concern within this chamber, because I believe, as we all do, because we were unanimous in our resolution, that in order to regain the community's trust, we need to work from the inside out. And obviously, some allegations are extremely concerning, which were ratified by some Safe Work New South Wales performance improvement orders, and therefore that will get addressed through this cultural review. And I really commend the work that's been done so far, and I expect that this will be, and I hope that it will be received well by all the staff, because the whole purpose of it is to support them, support the guys and girls that are working within the organisation, and to let them know that we have their best interests at heart. And I really commend this motion, and obviously I expect to see some results. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chang. Councillor Rothwell, would you like to speak?
No.
Okay.
Big else you said it all.
Councillors, do we have any other speakers for this motion? Councillor Flann.
I have a question about the review. I'm in support of it, but we recognise that there's indoor staff and outdoor staff, and I was just wondering, in terms of reference, is it a blanket approach? Because having managed lots of workplace reviews, we've got people that they want to be paid, they don't want any fuss, they don't want. There's a certain element of that which I think we all can understand, that there might be quite different responses from indoor staff to outdoor staff, and I just was wondering if the consultant was as part of the scoping was going to draw that differentiation, or was it just a blanket review? As I said, I'm in support of the motion and support of the process. I just was wanting to make sure that we need to think about the scope of the project and had it been thought about, because it said that the meeting is starting, the commencement meeting started this week.
Okay, Councillor Flann, I'll just deal with the first part of your question first and seek some advice from Acting CEO, Ms. Julie Costa.
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you, Councillor, for your question. The council staff refers to all council staff, so it's inclusive of all of our staff. I think the commencement meeting this week is more around meeting with the consultant and understanding of the briefing project moving forward.
I reckon, sorry, through you, I'll go through you, Madam Mayor, but as the question. I recognise it involves all staff. That wasn't my question. My question is specifically, had the consultants, as part of their brief, drawn a differentiation between the types of work activities that people do? So that if you ask someone that might not go outside very often, what is it about their workplace that annoys them the most? They might say that the building's too cold because the air conditioning's too cold. If you ask an outdoor staff person, they might say, I get sunburned. There's a pretty big difference between this. So I was just wondering, in our scope, have we recognised that the tasks that people do is quite different, and so therefore we can't say, oh, everyone needs to have the air conditioning turned up because of indoor staff's complaint. I just was seeking some clarification as to what the scope of that, because we're going to find those different things, like outdoor staff and indoor staff have, no one's better or worse than the other, but one will be concerned about the adjustment of chairs and making light of this, but the others might be involved with supervision and things, so.
Thank you, Councillor Flann. Through you, I could ask
So has someone seen the scope?
So through you, Madam Mayor, the scope is based on the resolution of council. So that is around the psychosocial hazards that council raised at the meeting at November. In terms of whether it will distinguish between outdoor and indoor staff, I can't specifically answer that. I think that will become evident when the staff provide input, I believe.
There'll be thematic responses based on all interviews that occur, there's various types of interview methods that are going to take place. So that will conjure together a picture of what's happening and differentiate through the themes, indoor-outdoor issues, I would say.
I hope that answered your question, Councillor Flannery. Councillor Roswell? No, you're all
I'm
good?
good.
Okay. Councillors, do we have any further speakers for or against? Right, all those in favour of the motion? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 6.5, the investment borrowing report. We have a recommendation that those reports covering the period 1 to 28th of February 2025 be noted. Do I have a mover? Second to Councillor Carter and Councillor Rothwell. Councillor Carter, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillors, any questions or further debate?
No.
I'll put the motion, all those in favour? That's unanimous, councillors. Item 6.5, the monthly financial report. I'll take it as read, the report, and that the monthly financial report for February 25 be noted. This is the recommendation from councillors. I have a secondary point to it that I'll move from the chair, if that's okay. So if we could just bring that up. 1 second. So I have a section 2 that council reviews its internally restricted funds for relevance and function. A report will be presented to council for consideration with a view to determining what should be retained and what can be merged or used to offset qualifying projects or return to general revenue if appropriate. An example is the electricity savings. This was reserved by motion of council to fund future energy saving. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. Energy savings, and that's involving lighting, etc. The Crago Mill buildings will achieve energy savings. In this respect, the funds reserved for energy savings could be transferred back to the general fund, could be used to offset other costs such as interest payments for the Crago Mill or for other council priorities.
You just aim after by, this was reserved by a motion.
Thank you. So I think probably actually the motion should probably stop at if appropriate, and then that information is for background.
Correct.
Sorry. Yeah, we've just got a little bit merged. Thank you, councillors. So I'll move that motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Rothwell. If I can speak briefly to this, a long time ago, before the Crago Mill project was approved, the council identified that savings could be made by changing over the lights to LED in our current building, and I think there were some other savings that we were able to achieve. Council was of a mind at the time and supported a resolution to reserve those savings so that they could be used to fund the next project's energy savings. The Crago Mill project presents certainly a unique situation where a lot of thought has gone into this building in terms of its energy efficiency and its skylights and lighting and solar that will be included. So I think that's a commendable use that reserve would now be used for. So instead of sitting in untouched in this reserve, I think it could be utilised, and that got me thinking it's probably high time we actually have a look at our internal reserves. So if you, councillors, I'll now put it to the floor, if there's, sorry, councillor Rothwell, you have the next opportunity to speak.
Good.
Not taken, okay. Any speakers against? Councillor Flaming, do you have a question or?
I have a question.
Yes.
Tanya, I am wondering if council, it's not it is kind of, given the savings are made around energy efficiency, my question is, are we still looking to make savings of energy efficiency through less lighting? And would we consider reducing the hours that our street lights are on? I know it's a completely different thing, but many jurisdictions are turning off lights, reducing their use as part of dark sky because of light pollution. That could be something that we could further consider. So I'm not specifically seeking
To change your amendment.
to change my
Like
amendment.
council
It's
to-
just I would like council to consider other ways to reduce excess lighting.
I look forward to that notification. Thank you, councillor Flannery. Councillor Carter.
So I've got a question of the CFO. So on page 73 of the report, it suggests that unrestricted and allocated cash equivalents and investments in February 2025 is at minus 2.565 million. Can you just explain to us how we are therefore funding ongoing operations at the moment? Are we drawing on debt to do that?
Thank you, councillor, through you, Mayor. So I think it's a combination of two. So obviously there are some activities we are funding through loans, such as the Frago Mill project. But generally our normal operations are being funded by obviously our revenue source, our pool of funds. We're not reaching into our externally restricted funds for normal operational activities. That's what the report is showing. What it's actually showing is that we've identified funds in the internal restrictions, but the fund, our normal operations, we are reaching into those funds. So hence why the recommendation was, and then Mayor's the second recommendation there is, we probably just need to review how the internal restrictions are set, and then as we continually operate, how we are funding the normal operations.
Thank you.
Hopefully that clarifies your question.
Councillors, any further speakers for or against? Let's put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Carried. Councillors, we now move to we're now on to items to send to confidential. So could I have someone block move 6.7 and 6.8? So moved, councillor Burgess. And seconded to move into confidential those items. Councillor Chari, thank you, councillor Chari. All those in favour? Unanimous, thank you. We now move on to item 6.9, which is our late report. Okay, councillors, we have before us some motions to potentially send to the National General Assembly, and these need to be in by the March the 31st, so hence coming into your assembly report so we can achieve council support or not for these. We have two items. One is that the motions on the National Messaging System and Financial Assistance grants be forwarded to the Australian Local Government Association for consideration to include them as motions in the business paper for the Australian Local Government Association National General Assembly 2025. Do I have a mover?
I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Seconded Councillor Rothwell. Councillor McGrath, you have the floor, if you wish.
Thank you, Mayor. Basically, it's all common sense. I don't think anyone needs to speak.
Councillor Rothwell.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
Councillors, I moved, I helped adjust a similar motion at the more recent New South Wales Local Government Conference. It was very evident to me that during the boil water alerts that we are grossly underarmed with mechanisms to alert the community to the very real risk of the potential contamination of the water supply. Noting that for boil water alerts, we're relying on media releases and social media and flashing signs down on our major roads. Councillor Clapp, you have a question?
I support the motion, it's sensible, but I just am wondering what the motions are that we're proposing, because it says council is proposing 2 motions to be submitted for consideration for inclusion. Do we know what those motions are?
So, councillors, you received an email notification that these are now on the hub.
Okay, sorry.
So
Would it be helpful if they were included in the paper?
I'm happy to get them.
But they're not there. They're not there. Okay, where are
They're in the supplementary package.
they? Okay.
Okay, so I'm happy to quickly,
Give us a thrust.
the thrust
Just
of
general idea is what
the
they are.
vibe of the thing. Okay, so essentially the NGA is a key national agenda setting forum for local government, and so this is our opportunity coming up in June to do that. There are 12 priority areas that we can put a motion in, and we've used the financial sustainability and the emergency management categories in order to lodge these. Noting that our motion on the federal assistance grants is word for word, we are supporting beakers. After doing all of my homework and diligently writing this in to the acting CEO, she found a better one, so well done. So, however, we are, I believe, unique in sending one in about the trying to jump on board the National Messaging Service, and that's not surprising given our experience with boil water alerts. So the motions are that 1, granting councils access to the national messaging system in emergencies, and the wording is this National General Assembly calls on the Australian Government to grant councils access to the national messaging system being developed by the National Emergency Management Agency to assist councils in managing local emergencies. And the next one, the wording is same, calling on the Assembly for the Australian Government to restore funding of the Financial Assistance Grant Program to at least 1% of federal taxation revenue. B, reduce the population factor in the general purpose component of the federal assistance grant allocation from 30% down to 10%, and restore the federal assistance grant funding lost in the 2014 to 15 and 16 to 17 indexation freeze, and D, review the financial assistance grant national principles. So councillors, if you're happy with that, and there's no further speakers, for the motion, all those in favour? Thank you, councillors. I look forward to attending. And I failed to ask, it's just dawned on me, I failed to ask the question of the acting CEO, whether or not we need to formalise the delegates to that.
So that'll be through that
Through that separate, okay, thank you. Right, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to, we're now up to our questions with notice. We have 2 questions. First, 8.1 on the Crago Mill project loan from Councillor Cameron. We'll take it as read and noted. So, Councillor Cameron?
No.
Councillor Cameron,
Put a
and
motion.
do you wish to put a motion? Oh,
There's a motion up.
you have the floor. So councillor Cameron, will you note it and put a motion in the same, or are you going to separate those out?
Can be the same, can be the only one.
Alright, we might do it in Seratarian, just in case.
Whichever way you like.
Yeah. We can bundle them, but just do it in Seratarian,
Yeah,
just in case somebody can strike against it. Okay. Okay, councillor Cameron, would you like to read that out for us?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Sorry. That council seek a meeting with T Corp to ascertain if refinancing of the Crago Mill development is a possibility. This meeting would include the Chief Executive Officer, the Chief Financial Officer and the Mayor. A report on this meeting be provided to the April council meeting.
Councillor Cameron, would you consider adjusting that to the May meeting? Just, I think we might be crunching time.
That's fine.
Do we have a we have a mover, do we have a seconder? Seconded, councillor Carter. Alright, councillor Cameron, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for the report. It was quite satisfactory in lots of ways. It's my belief that if we are to discuss the long-term financial plan in any meaningful way, we need to seek to diminish the amount of interest payable on the $50 million loan. 6.5%. It was presented to us in the Westpac deal as the best offer that could be attained at that particular time. And being relatively new to council, I believe that. I think subsequently I have found out that there were discussions with T Corp, but they didn't eventuate into any formal application to T Corp to access a $50 million loan, possibly at about 2.5% at that particular time, which would have been much more beneficial. And we can only ponder the reasons why that didn't happen. However, I think we need to try and make an effort ASAP to try and see if T Corp is interested at this stage, and I know at a slightly higher rate, whether we could diminish our interest rate by going to them and getting access to their finance and basically drawing down money from Westpac. Now, I'm not sure the legality of all of that, but I just think it would be interesting to know if T Corp would be interested in doing such an activity. I think we do have dealings with T Corp on a regular basis. We do have a couple of loans out with them. They might be interested. The excuse given why it didn't go to T Corp was that they weren't interested. Not true, from what I've understood. Basically, I think we should be finding out from T Corp as soon as possible whether we can put in a submission to them to lower the interest rate that we are currently paying, because it is excessive.
Councillor Carter, as the seconder.
I suppose I'm slightly frustrated at the timing of this, but in some ways I think it's important. I do accept some of the points made by the CFO with respect to a completed asset is easier to refinance. But the point, I think, which is really crucial is that, and I think Councillor Cameron has begun to make that argument, which is ultimately no formal application was ever made to T Corp. And that's concerning, because their average interest rate sits, quite significantly below market rates. We've been told by the Office of Local Government to do everything. We've been told by the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee to be serious about the long-term financial plan. This, I think, would be a valuable step in saying we are serious about that. It doesn't, with full due respect, unfortunately, grants are often a lottery, and so we can't necessarily guarantee that it's going to provide us a $23 million relief. One hopes that it does, but we should also be, I think, in the interest of the community, taking all steps we possibly can to investigate ways that we can save ourselves money. And something like a 3.25% interest rate, which I think is what T Corp is roughly currently charging at a fixed rate, is a significant cost saving over the life of the project. And so their answer may well be no, but we've not asked the question. We haven't prepared the paperwork. And in that sense, we really haven't, in that sense, made a fully informed decision when it comes to what is the best funding facility with respect to the Cogo Mill. The argument, of course, is that Westpac gave us a 2-year interest-free period, which is delightful, but that's about to come to an end, and the full whack of 6.52% plus the requirement to start paying back principal is going to continue to have significant impacts on our long-term financial plan. So, in general, I support the motion. It's important that we start to make some movements towards at least improving what at the moment, as Mr. Whitworth suggested in December, is a really serious looking long-term financial plan. We need to get this back to zero, is the short answer. And this would at least take us some way if we're able to negotiate better loan conditions for us. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Do we have any speakers against the motion? Do I have any speakers for the motion? Further speakers for the motion? I have a question if I could ask through the acting CEO to CFO. Is seeking this kind of meeting with T Corp in any way going to jeopardise our relationship with Westpac and the ongoing, I note that there's a review coming up on the 15th of May conducted by Westpac. Will this jeopardise that relationship in any way, or will access to the funds while the project is being realised?
In terms of that question, so it would be a delicate balance, but we could approach T Corp as the motion has asked. Or we need to talk with Westpac as well to say that we are exploring these opportunities. One of the risks we have the loan facility where we're probably halfway through the project. So we don't want to jeopardise access to funds to complete the project as well. So that'll need to be considered. And also, if we were to move from Westpac to a T Corp facility, considering what the break cost might be of the loan as well. So we'll follow and arrange those meetings, but I am in continual discussion and contact with Westpac as a customer, as a key client. So I'll raise that.
Councillors, I am concerned that if we go down this track, that just gather my thoughts correctly, that we need to weigh up both the opportunities that T Corp might present along with the full benefits of the Westpac loan that we may not be aware of, and it's probably an opportunity for us to do both. Because I'm certainly not aware to the greatest extent of what the flexibilities of the current Westpac loan is versus what a loan with T Corp might look like. Obviously, if we're able to ascertain the kind of rates that T Corp are offering and versus the break costs, I just don't know. So I think in lockstep with this, we should probably be looking at how it compares with the Westpac facility. So if Councillor Cameron, would you like to, would you accept an amendment to say a report on this meeting be provided to the main council meeting along with a comparison with the Westpac loan facility? So we can actually look at the two loan providers and see what the benefits are of both.
Sorry, I've got,
Sorry, okay.
I'm asking you to repeat again.
Yeah, it's okay. So would you accept an amendment where it says a report on this meeting be provided to the main council meeting, along with a comparison of the benefits of the current Westpac loan facility?
Well,
So
we
we
are
can
having a meeting,
compare apples.
we are having a meeting with Westpac. Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think, you know, what I'm exploring at the moment is, one is, T Corp interested in the process at the moment of jumping in and helping us finance it at a lower rate, or, at the end point, maybe coming in at that point, I don't know. There's a couple of different possibilities. I think we don't have any idea, like I have talked, as you probably have at the conference recently with T Corp people, that they understand the situation, I think, and I think they're sympathetic, but having sympathy doesn't necessarily mean that they want to get involved. So, yeah, I'm happy with that, that's fine. There's a question here.
Just a question.
Councillor Flannery.
Councillor Cameron, I agree with what you're saying, that council seek a meeting with T Corp. Are we also seeking, do we have a pool of people that we seek meetings with, or are we going to probably not quite the right word, but are we going down a path of single select to go, we don't like you, but we're going here because we might like you better? Is there a process that says, are there 3 or 4 other people that we might shop around with? It was my home loan and it's not, thankfully. I would be shopping at every place that is a reputable lender, not just T Corp. You can't stand at the same time as me. I feel weird when you do that. Okay, should I sit down?
Yes, I think, to answer your question.
Thank you, from a standing position.
Absolutely, because this is how we operate, I believe.
Councillor Cameron, I note that you would like to answer Councillor Flannery's question. I have no objections, but I will give that opportunity to the executive afterwards.
Okay. All I'm saying is that I think T Corp could offer us a fantastic interest rate if they're interested. The other banks, etc., I don't think are going to be much different in the ballpark compared to Westpac. So I am seeing it as a one or the other. And
A binary decision.
yeah, binary, whatever you like. I'm happy with binary, most people are. I won't go any further on that one.
Councillor Flannery, can I just thank you, Councillor Cameron.
Do I
I'll take that
do I need to stand again, because I feel like I should stand up now.
Councillor Flannery, I'll now direct your question to the executive in terms of is there a probity process where we must go out to seek more than just?
So my question was not a probity question, my question was, what is the process that the council uses, which is perhaps probity, but Councillor Cameron specifically stated Tab Corp, and I was wondering, should that be amended to, or another reputable?
Yeah, previously we used a broker, so I'll seek some advice.
Yeah, so something like that.
I think, obviously, we can talk to T Corp if they arrange that meeting, then we do meet with them, because we do have existing loan facilities with them as well, and I think if we were gonna change our provider, then maybe a procurement process, we like seek an expression of interest of who we want to take on a $50 million loan, or whatever the loan lands at. We can't restrict who we may use as our lender, a bit like when you're procuring another procurement loan.
I understand that. I haven't done this for very long, but I'm just asking. You're saying we would have to go through a process to get other lenders involved, but we seem to have made a decision around being single select based on our assumptions that Tabcorp will be interested, TCOR, sorry. Tabcorp. Yeah, I've actually never put a bet on, so I don't know why I put
Not interested.
Tabcorp. Yeah.
I mean, it is a bet.
Tabcorp, not where I'm going, TCOR. You know, we seem to have developed a single select model, and that to me is not, if we have to do, you know, borrowing words that have said a number of times, we have to do everything possible, so I don't know if we need another procurement process, but my goodness, if it was my homeland, I'd be going around and seeing what other people do. I mean, that seems to be the way that companies operate. So I'm just, if we go down to one other provider, are we going to go in another 6 months? Let's have a look at another one.
Councillor Carter, I think you were urgently wanting to answer.
Yeah,
I want to stand.
You just have to stand.
Madam Mayor, in response to the comments and questions from Councillor Flannery, this is not suggesting we're changing the law.
No.
This is merely, I suspect, actually filling in a gap in the process, which is that originally, my understanding was council were told that the option was Westpac, that in fact TCorp weren't interested. I don't think that's an accurate reflection of the information, and so I think we're simply seeking information as to whether or not they might, and if that is the case, then yeah, absolutely we'll go through a full procurement process, but this is merely a meeting in that sense.
Okay.
But also, I don't think there's any benefits to Westpac. I think the motion would be suggesting the benefits of the Westpac loan facility. I think that's what we're trying to explain.
The existing facility.
Yeah. So the benefits of shifting to TCorp are zero for Westpac.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Would be the benefits of the Westpac loan facility.
You might need to, you may need to express that exactly, yeah.
Yes, she's done.
Thank you. You're doing great. You're doing so good. All right, councillors, we have a motion before us. Do I have any further speakers for or against? Let's put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Councillors, on to the item 8.2, the questions with notice on the workers' accommodation for Hume Link East. Would you like to move that they be noted, Councillor Cameron?
Can I make a comment as well? I move that it be noted and standing up again and thank the acting CEO for her considerable assistance on this matter, finding out the information, finding out that we don't do a DA on this, it's a state project or federal project, and we're out of the ballpark basically. But yeah, seems odd. Anyway.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron, for that compliment.
Please.
It's amazing how long I'll let someone speak when they're complimenting. Okay, do we have a seconder for noting? And the item, and noting the item of thanks there to the acting CEO as well. So Councillor Cameron and McGrath, all those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Now, moving on to our minutes and recommendations of council committees. 9.1 are the minutes of the CRJO Joint Audit Risk and Improvement Committee held on the 27th of November 2024. So moved Councillor Carter and Councillor Cameron. Thank you. Councillor Carter.
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, 2 items just to note about this. And by way of information, this is an Audit Risk and Improvement Committee shared across 3 local government authorities. They clearly understood a lot about Yass's situation, and they were asking some very pertinent questions. It was, of course, at a moment of change, and so my thanks to the acting CEO for representation in that meeting on behalf of Yass Valley as well. I just make 2 points for us. One, of course, is that they were, the ARIC committee was very strongly of the opinion that council must turn their attention more significantly to the long-term financial plan. and that recommendation is made at least 2 or 3 times in the minutes, and so I want to put that again on notice for us, that is something we need to be looking at. And the second point, just to note, is that ARIC is actually visiting Yass Valley on Monday the 31st of March, and they will be here for the day, and so there'll be both committee meetings, site visits, and a range of other activities as well. So my thanks to ARIC for their insights and support and independent questioning of the activities of Yass Valley.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Any further speakers? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Moving on to 9.2, the minutes of the Rescue and Local Emergency Management Committee meetings held on the 14th of November 2024. That they be noted. I have a mover. So we have Councillor McGrath and Councillor Flannery. Thank you, councillors. Any comments? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? So carried unanimously. On to the minutes of the Craiglow Mill Precinct Project Committee held on 13th of March 2025. That's item 9.3. We have a recommendation that the update be noted, and we'll reflect that it was a much more detailed report. Thank you very much to our executive. I need a mover. So moved, Councillor McGrath and Councillor Rothwell. Any comments?
Just a question, please, just about the ongoing, to you, Madam Mayor, about the ongoing operation of this committee. I was wondering if there would be, if there's opportunities to attend by visual link to this, so by Teams or something similar. Just that, given that a number of councillors are working, the particular timing of these meetings makes it difficult to always attend, and so if Teams would be made available, that would be greatly appreciated for that particular time. It's going to be hard for a site visit, but...
Yes, yes.
We could FaceTime.
All right, if there's no further comments or questions, I will note that we're engaging with our precinct grant partners to engage with them on the design phase of with the local Aboriginal Land Council, the Onwell group, which has been challenging given the changes at the executive level, but I just want to commend the members who stepped forward along with the former interim CEO, Ms. Michaela Stock, has just gone above and beyond in a volunteer capacity to continue that work and to engage and help us engage with the lab. And also Inspector Dave Cowell, who will step into the chair. I hope he never has to if there's ever an emergency, but with the design phase, we're also engaging with him on the, what's required for a natural disaster response location. So I'll put the motion for noting the community update on that project. All those in favour? Unanimous, carried. Thank you, councillors. And I think we have now reached the point of our confidential items. So if I could have a mover to put us into confidential and a seconder. So Councillor Flannery and Councillor Carter. I now ask if there are any public speakers against us going or for us going into confidential. Or there is no one left here. All right, councillors, councillors, I'll put that motion and put us into confidential. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors, that's unanimous, and we now close our live stream and we'll be back after the confidential, and we'll come back out and read the resolutions of council after a little bit. Thank you. Councillors, we're now back into our open council meeting, and I'd like to read out the decisions from the confidential section. 10.1, the tender evaluation report for the NDRA Storm Damage Works Package 3. And council has resolved that the tender submitted by Arcon Civil Pty Ltd to under contract NDRA Storm Damage Works Package 3 YVCIA 03/2025 be accepted for a total cost of $759,195 excluding GST, and that was unanimously supported. Our next item was the Yass Valley Library roof replacement tender, YVC PE 02/2025. And council resolved that the tender submitted by Murphy's Remedial Builders for the contract, Yass Valley Library roof replacement, be accepted for a total cost of $310,233.71 excluding GST. And that concludes the business of council. Thank you to anyone still watching on the live stream. We will now end.
Thank you.
Vicky, do we need to rearrange the table?
We do.
Someone want to come?
I took a picture the other day